In this video, we are going to make a handle and add it to your mug. Notice there's lots of different types of handles that can be added onto your mug. It's your personal preference as to how you want to make your handle. Realize that your handle should be functional. The point of having a handle is so that you do not need to hold the cylinder part of the mug if you have a hot beverage inside. So the idea is to keep your hand from getting too warm. So the first thing you'll need is your mat and sticks, a needle tool, a ruler, a rolling pin, and this is what we have so far. We have our cylinder texture, our bottom added. With our leftover clay, you just need to mash it into a little coil of clay, something like this. I'm going to put it on my mat, rotate my mat so I'm using the length of the mat, and I'm going to roll out a long slab. Again, I want this slab to be the thickness of these sticks. The idea is that your handle is the same thickness as the walls of your mug. Please do not make your handle super thick. It can seem unbalanced when you're using it. So I've just rolled out a 1/4 inch thick slab of clay using my rolling pin. My next step is to make the handle. I like to just lay a ruler that's 1 inch wide down to form the handle. So I'm just going to lay that down and I'll just trace around it using my needle tool. I'm not sure how much of this clay I'm going to use yet. When I actually lay it up against my cylinder, that's how I'll figure out how much to have. So there's a 1/4 inch thick slab. I'm going to peel my mat off to start, and then once I get it started, it comes off pretty slick. At this point, if I wanted to add texture, I could. I would not suggest making lines down it because we're going to bend it, and those lines will make it very weak. So instead, if you're going to do that, don't make those marks go all the way through. I'm just going to make a couple marks. Maybe I make a couple dots. You don't have to add texture to your handle if you don't want to. Next step, I'm going to get my mug. This could be kind of weak. Your walls might not be as strong as or as dry as mine are right now. So just be careful. If you're laying it on its side like this, you need to be really careful that you don't lose that nice cylinder shape. Then I'm going to take my slab of clay. Right now it's very thin and very weak, so I don't want to hold it too much, otherwise it will weaken it even more. So I'm just gently placing it on its side like this, and then I'm going to decide what shape handle I want. So I can just play with that shape while it's laid down like this and not have to worry about loosening or weakening the clay or making it too thin. So I can really just change that shape, thinking about how I want my handle to be. Maybe I want my handle like that. Realize that this space in here is going to shrink. The clay will shrink by about 10%. So you want to give yourself a little bit of room so that your hand will still fit even if it shrinks. Once I have that shape, I'm just going to make a mark where I'm going to cut off my extra clay. Right there, I'll move this out of the way, and I can make a nice straight cut for that. And at this point, if I tried to add it to my cup here, my mug, it would be too floppy. The clay is really soft. It doesn't hold its shape. So I need to take it to a blow dryer and actually blow dry this so it firms it up and dries it out just a little bit. We don't want it totally dry. If it starts turning white, it is way too dry. We want it just dry enough so that it will hold its shape. Here's one that I blow dried earlier. You can see when I lift it up, I can hold it and move it around and it still holds its shape. I can still change the shape just a little bit without it cracking. It's not too dry, but it does hold its shape really well, whereas this one, if I were to put it up on its edge, it would start to bend. It's really floppy. It's not going to hold its shape very well. So the easiest way to get this to the hair dryer is to get your bat. Remember, your bat is the surface that we've been storing our clay on. So I just take my cylinder and all the bag and stuff off, and I carefully set it on my bat, make sure it still works, make sure it's the right size and the right shape. And then I can carry it like this all the way over to the hair dryer, blow dry it, get it nice and dry on both sides, and then bring it back to join it. To join it, it's fairly simple. All I need to do is score and slip to attach it. I can still tweak the shape. I can still change the shape a little bit if it's not quite right. Another thing to think about is we're adding this flat piece to this circular mug. So instead of trying to join it like this, what if I took and I actually cut a little bit off the end of this, so it's more rounded and matches the shape of the mug. Then you'll have a better joint if I just round the end of this so that when I put my mug against it, it will fit nice and flat against there instead of it being the wrong shape. Another thing that I should do is think about function. These little edges here are very sharp. Like, we cut them at right angles. That's uncomfortable to hold on to. So before you actually join it to your mug, I would take like a needle tool, works the best, and just round out. I'm just going along the edge and I'm rounding out that edge so it's not quite as sharp. I'm rounding out the inside edge of my handle, and I would do the same thing on this outside edge. I'm just rounding it over so that it's not a sharp edge. It can be really uncomfortable to hold a mug that has a sharp edge to its handle. When we get a little bit further, you'll also be rounding out the lip or the top edge of your mug because it's uncomfortable to drink out of a mug that has a sharp edge on it. So you can see I've rounded that edge over so it's not quite as sharp. I did this side a little bit earlier too. A last step in this, to make it really nice and rounded over, would be to get a little water on your fingers and just kind of smooth that out with your fingers, and you can get a really nice, smooth, comfortable handle. All these little bits that are falling on my mat, I want to make sure I get in the garbage. Just throw them away. Once I have it nice and smoothed out and easy to handle, then I'm going to put it onto where I'm going to attach it, and it looks like it will attach nicely there. Be careful, you want to make sure that your mug this handle sits nice and straight. You don't want that handle to be off and crooked like that. I'm being dramatic, but you can have it off a little bit and then it looks pretty bad and isn't quite as functional. Once I have it in the right spot, then I'm just going to mark where it's going to attach. So mine will attach right here, so I'm just going to scribe. Remember, we scribe the bottom. That means just making light lines where I'm going to score and attach. So I'm just making little light lines. Then I'm going to score this surface. Scoring is just making these really sharp cuts into the edge of the clay. I'm going to score this surface where it's going to be joined down here. And I will do the exact same thing on my handle up here where it's going to attach. I'm going to score that really well. And then I'm going to get slip, and I would score down here too where it will attach. Again, yours might look differently because yours might be a different shape handle. Get a little bit of slip. Remember, slip is that liquidy clay. I would put it right here. Goop it on there. It's better if you use too much and then clean it up afterwards. Goop it on down here. And then I would squish to attach it. So something like that. Then I can just come back and I can clean it up. I can clean up all this stuff. I'm just taking my finger, cleaning all this extra slip off so that it's nice and clean. And then I've added my handle. Here's one that I did earlier.